effort in Laban we talk about as being the how of how we do things. Now, in English, at least, the how is often an adjective or an adverb, like how are you doing that, oh, delicately, or how are you doing that, childishly. Yeah, an adjective or an adverb. But I'm going to push us towards using verbs today, mostly because we are intersecting with theater and we're talking about action and how to get something done. So yes, we can use adjectives and that's totally fine. But for today, I'm really going to push us into using verbs. How are you going to cut that? I'm going to slash it. How are you going to open that? I'm going to pierce it. How are you going to make that smaller? I'm going to bash it, right? Or I'm going to fold it, or I'm going to decimate it, right? So there's an adjective or an adverb inherent in the verb, but I'm going to stick us with verbs today. So effort is dynamic, it's quality. It is your inner life, what it feels like to you to be a human being, made visible into the world. It's also what it feels like to your body as a body to take action. So effort is both function and expression, and those are not opposites. So function and expression are what we call a lemniscate, or like a Mobius band, where the outside becomes the inside, and if you stay on it, the inside becomes the outside again, right? They're interdependent, they exist because of each other. You can't have expression without function. And when you're highly functional, you are expressing something. So it's not either I'm going to think about function or expression. They are inherent in each other and they exist because of each other. Just like inner, outer exist only in relation to each other. If you don't have an inner, there's no outer. What are you outside of, right? And same opposite is true, right? So I like to just bring up the example of breathing, which is I take the air of the room into my body, but my body gets bigger in the room. And as I put the air of my body out into the room, my body retreats from the room. So in each half of a breath is both an inner and an outer, and they exist because of each other. And that's what is happening also with effort. I express something, it creates an effect in the world. Everything I do has a ripple effect, right? At this point in a live class, I would ask a student if I had permission to scare them slightly. And then I would ask a couple times, and then I go close to them, and I am going to come close to your camera, just FYI. So, and I would come close to them and I'd go, hi. And even though they were prepared, they would probably jerk a little bit, right? So I used QuickTime and strong weight. We're going to talk about the actual things in a minute. And they probably used a little QuickTime and something else, maybe bound flow or, right? And then if you looked at the composition between us, there was probably this action, and then something else that happened in response to that. And that was like the effort of the whole picture. So there's like your effort, somebody else's effort, and then there's like a bigger picture that we can look at as well. So we can look at it both from a kind of sensate place. We can look at it from an observational lens, and we can also zoom back out and look at it from a compositional lens. So effort is your inner life made visible to the world, but it's also how the world is experienced by you. So there's quality and effort in everything that you're seeing, and it affects you in a certain way. One, there are societal ideas that get attached to these qualities. And sometimes within society, well, always within society, those ideas can also attach differently to gender identity, to race, to age, ability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is that we stigmatize effort, both as a society, but also individually. strong doesn't mean angry, but it may have gotten connected to angry in your life, in your culture, in your family, in your body. And then we have our own associations with anger, right? Again, as a society, in relation to different identities in a society, but also just as human beings based on our memory, our history, our culture, our trauma, etc. Right? So anger means different things to different people. So part of our job is to pull that apart and really try to look at the qualities in some ways more neutrally. And then that third thing, what we like and what feels less comfortable to us, right? Again, not asking you to change anything, but if we notice, yeah, I never use indirect space attention, and that's going to start to limit my choices when I might need it. So maybe I should just practice it so I have it on hand, even though right now it feels like not my favorite. And then I might like to personally investigate, I wonder why that's not my favorite. You know, was somebody really indirect with me my whole life and created some trauma around indirect attention? So I feel like something might come at me at any moment and it makes me feel scared, right? Those are things that are not facts in effort, but they are facts for you. So, you know, they're good things to look at. We can use this to analyze a script. We can use it to make choices in how we speak within a theatrical moment. We can use this to create movement, to change movement. We could use it to observe movement in others and analyze. You know, sometimes I'm looking at somebody's movement and I've asked them what their intention is. For like, I want it to be really confrontational and I want it to kind of scare, you know, and I'm looking at them and I'm saying, okay, well, you're using these qualities, and it's possible that if you flipped this one quality, you might actually get more. You know, I'm trying to create like a contradiction, but they're speaking and moving with the same qualities. And I say, well, what if you spoke with this light and free quality, but you had this bound and sustained body language? We'd feel this tension between how you're speaking and how you're moving, and we'd feel like something's not, there's subtext, right? So effort used in certain ways immediately can create subtext because we can use contradiction between the way we're speaking and the way we're moving. Part of the reason I wanted to run this workshop is for that. We often tend naturally to just parallel the way we're speaking and the way we're moving. And if you give a person text or you give them movement, okay, do them together, they'll tend to move big on the big words and then move, you know, in a different way on the, you know, and speak with a certain quality that they're moving with. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And what are our other options? What happens if we use a little bit of contradiction, full opposition, some contradiction and some you know, and some paralleling? So we just have more choices when we start breaking some of those habits of embodying text and embodying movement in a parallel way. Then in human relations, we can also do the same thing. Again, there's nothing wrong with anything that anyone's doing, and you still have every choice available. But for example, I had a job at one point and my supervisor and I were having a lot of trouble connecting. I gave Joyce this example on the phone yesterday. And I don't know, I felt like every time I even wrote an email, it got misinterpreted. Definitely when we had live conversations, I felt like we got into a weird tension, and I was like, I can't keep working like this. I have to make some kind of change. So I started to watch her and her qualities. And I recognized that she seemed like she was often in bound flow, sustained time, and lightweight. And I am often in free flow, quick time, sometimes strong weight, but usually direct space attention. That's kind of my bias, right? So I'm direct, I'm quick, and I like have an ongoingness, right? And then I started kind of bird's eye observing me and her, and I was like, she might feel attacked or threatened by me or overwhelmed by me. So now I have a choice. I can continue to do that. There's nothing that says that I can't continue to overwhelm her, but now that I see it, maybe I could make a new choice. So as an experiment, I started using a little bit more sustained time And I started using a little bit more bound flow in the way that I would speak. And sometimes I would even uptick my words so that there was a little more lightweight. And at the end of it, there was a little bit more of a sense of a question. So a lot of us get down on up talkers, right? Because, oh, it's not strong. There's nothing wrong with it. It just may not be fulfilling the goal that that person wants to fulfill, right? There's nothing wrong with any effort quality. But we want to measure it against what we're trying to do, right? So I was trying to relate to her in a way that she could receive me at ease. And I was clearly not using the qualities that would support that. So then I slowed down. I was a little more bound, and I used a little more lightweight. And something about that allowed her to hear me and put herself back out in the room and be more vulnerable with me. And our relationship completely changed from that day on. And now we get along great. This is also something that can be used in life, in human relations, in your writing, in your analyzing, in therapeutics, in certainly, you know, we're going to talk about it a lot in the realm of theater and dance, both the creation and direction of theater and dance, but also the performance. So you can do this as an actor, as a dancer, choreographer, director, dramaturg. I certainly use it in teaching. I use it in functionality when I'm like, why are you guys falling on that move every time? And I'm like, oh, because there's not like enough quick and strong to get into it. So you're not getting that grounding. So you don't have that yield and push because there's a springiness that needs to happen and you're not getting the bottom of that spring. So let me get into that quick, strong moment before the balance, because I feel like universally this class is not finding that balance. So I could make that clearer, right? So those are some of the ways that we can apply effort